5F, reciprocals and multiplicative inverse. The reciprocal is just flipping a fraction, meaning that the numerator and the denominator change places. So if I have the fraction 3/5, then the reciprocal of 3/5 would be 5/3. Ta-da! There we go. That's a reciprocal. It just means you flip the fraction. 8/9, the reciprocal is 9/8. I just took the numerator and turned it into the denominator, turned the denominator, and took the denominator and turned it into the numerator. So that's all we're doing with that. Well, how does it get a little more complicated? Well, there's a couple things that could happen. First of all, we're talking about flipping a fraction. So what if we're given 7, and I say find the reciprocal of 7? Mr. Davis, that's not a fraction. That's a whole number. How am I supposed to find the reciprocal of a whole number? Well, remember, any number can be written as a fraction by putting it over 1. 7 is the same as 7 over 1. Any number divided by itself gives you that number back, right? So 7/1. Oh, well, now that I have that, well, that's easy. That's 1 over 7. So if you have a whole number or an integer, just put it over 1, and then you can take the reciprocal of it. So if I had -3, you can put that over 1, gives you -1 over 3. So there we go. Pretty straightforward. But, Mr. Davis, so how do we do this? There's always a but, right? But, Mr. Davis, how can we do this thing? That doesn't make sense. What if I have 2 5/8? Well, you take the reciprocal, right? You flip the fraction. Well, careful here. 2 5/8, the reciprocal of that is not 2 8/5. Okay? If we have a mixed number, for us to take the reciprocal, we have to turn it into an improper fraction. So 2 5/8, we're going to turn that into an improper fraction. So I'm going to get rid of my arrow for a moment and say, okay, well, as an improper fraction, that's 2 times 8 is 16 plus 5 is 21. So that's 21/8. Oh, well, now I just have a fraction. Okay, the reciprocal of that is going to be 8 over 21. So you cannot take the reciprocal of a mixed number. You can take the reciprocal of a whole number. You just put it over 1, and then you can take the reciprocal. You can take the reciprocal of a fraction, proper or improper. You just flip it over. But if you have a mixed number, you've got to turn that into an improper fraction, and then you can flip it over. Now, in mathematical notation, the reciprocal is just written as a over b to the -1. A over b to the -1. So here's the original fraction. This -1 says take the reciprocal of it, which gives us b over a. So if I have 2/7 to the -1, that's saying take the reciprocal of 2/7, which is 7/2. Now I want to make note here that this operation is telling you to take the reciprocal of it. So 2/7 to the -1 is equal to 7/2. Whereas you notice here, I took the mixed number, turned it into an improper fraction, and then I was saying, okay, if this is the mixed number, the improper fraction, then here is the reciprocal. So this was the process of turning it into a reciprocal. So don't say 2 5/8 is equal to 21/8 is equal to 8/21, because that'll be wrong. But if you had if I had done this, then that would be correct. This says take the reciprocal of 2 5/8, which is take the reciprocal of 21/8, which is 8/21. So that you can do, that's allowed. So the reciprocal just means flip the fraction. If you have a mixed number, turn it into an improper fraction, and then you can flip the fraction. And knowing about reciprocals allows us to find the multiplicative inverse. The multiplicative inverse is the value that if we multiply by it, you will get 1. So if I have 3/5 times what will give me 1, the multiplicative inverse is the value that I put here that will cause this to be a true statement. Well, the multiplicative inverse is just the reciprocal of this. So let me just put an A here. 3/5 times A just stands for any number, so what number is equal to 1? A is equal to 5/3, the reciprocal of this first value. 3/5 times 5/3 gives me 1. So that's the multiplicative inverse. It's the value that if you multiply the original number by it, will give you 1. If this was negative 3/5, then A would be negative 5/3. Which will still give me positive 1. So that's the reciprocal and the multiplicative inverse. So the multiplicative inverse is essentially just the reciprocal of whatever the original factor was.